And welcome back to the ABCs of ERP and Beyond, the podcast all about enterprise resource planning and how it can help modern manufacturing and distribution businesses grow, get control, and hopefully stop firefighting. And today we are going to hopefully save you from one of the most common and most expensive mistakes seen in ERP projects: running your old system at the same time as your shiny new one. Parallel running. Sounds responsible, sounds like good risk management, and almost every single person has asked about whether it's a good idea at some point. But our honest take, spoiler alert, in most cases, it will make your go live harder and definitely not safer. And hopefully by the end of this episode, we are going to show you exactly why. And I cannot do this without my co-host, Nirav Shah. Welcome back.
Hello, Peter. Welcome to be back and talk about this, I think, topic that gets brought up almost all the time and almost every ERP implementation that I've been involved in. But it's natural because people don't do this every single day. So excited to dive into the details on all the reasons why I hear people want to do this and how we talk through whether it's the right decision or not.
All right. So before we do start, there's two things I want to say. Well, first, I don't even know if you're aware of this. We are now live and getting more and more famous on the world of TikTok and YouTube Shorts.
Wow.
We have a TikTok channel. We've been posting. Well, I say we. I've been posting every day. Go and have a look. There's like 8 shorts now of us talking about things. Granted,
No
AI
way.
is pulling out interesting
Yeah.
tidbits from the hundreds of hours we shot. But how do you feel about
Nice.
that? You're now on TikTok.
You know, I knew stardom was going to come. I didn't expect it this early in our young podcasting career, but it's exciting. We're reaching to different platforms, which is cool. And I've kind of seen this type of content on those platforms as well, because I think the buyer's getting younger, right? Let's face it, all right, for these business management systems, they're getting younger. Everyone's consuming data in their own ways. So I think this is really cool that we're on TikTok and obviously we're doing shorts on YouTube, and we'll keep trying to expand our reach wherever, there's interest for this topic, because we're kind of like ERP nerds here, and we love talking about this. We don't, if you see me on the streets, we try and limit our autographs if we can, but I'm here for the fans. Peter, I'm here for the fans. What can I tell you? What can I tell you, man? You know what I mean?
All right. And the other bit of news we have, we are joined by a guest for today's episode. Introduce yourself, guest.
Okay. Hello, Peter. Hello, Nirav. My name is Emily Browning, and I am an IT leader working in the manufacturing industry. That's where I've spent most of my career. Previously, I've been IT within financial services, all on the client side, all in business intelligence and software management. And prior to that, I was on the software side as well, working for a small software house at the start of my career. So that's who I am and my experience. And now I do lots of ERP related projects. And regarding the topic that we're talking about today, whenever I approach leadership management with, here's how we're going to do this new ERP project, it's always one of the first questions they have. Are we going to run both systems in parallel? Or, they just assume that we are and say, for how long are we going to do that? And I'd love to just say, nope, we're not doing that, and walk away. But unfortunately, it needs a bit more explanation than that. So I'm hoping that that's what we can get into today.
All right, good. We've written down a list of points. We wrote hundreds and then we had to remove most of them. Most of them just said, no, just don't do it. But we should at least add some value and explain why. So both of you, we have a list to go through. I'm just going to chuck out the kind of the subject thing, and then we can start pulling it apart, poking it, and see why we think that this is, a risk or a problem for trying to run concurrently 2 systems, your old and your new. First one we've written down, big problem, data duplication, and in brackets we've got and divergence. So what do we mean by this? Like, why is that an issue if we're just, isn't it a good thing to have the data in 2 places just in case?
Yeah. It's good at cutover when you have to bring your old data into the new system, and you could balance the 2 systems together. But then as soon as you go live that first day, that new data should stay in the new ERP system. We'll get into a lot of the reasons why that's best practice at the end of the day, but you don't want to risk users basically being tasked to put information into systems. right? Because now what you're doing is they're becoming data entry experts, and it's taking time away from doing their day-to-day job and putting in information in the old system and then in the new system. So for me, this one is a hard no, right? Data duplication is one of the reasons you don't want to go ahead and run parallel with the ERP system. And if you are cutting over running a new system, put all the information in the new system and only in the new system. That way everyone is clear where they should be looking for information. And if information is missing in the new ERP system, then you add it to the new ERP system, right? It takes a little bit of time as you start kind of getting the hang of it when you go live. No matter how much you have trained, you've gone through successful pilot tests, you've dotted the I's, crossed the T's. But when you go ahead and start the system that first day, you pull back the curtains, right? People get stage fright. And they're like, oh my God, on Monday morning, I'm at my desk. What do I do, right? In the new system. Well, okay, let's take some time. Let's go ahead and talk about, what were you supposed to do today, Monday morning? Right? Oh yeah, I was supposed to check up on this production order, or I need to go ahead and create the shipping label to ship this order out. Okay, well, here are the screens. You remember these screens that we went through and talked about, and you trained on. Let's go ahead and do your first order together, right? And then like, oh yeah, okay, we got in here. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do another transaction because now finance is gonna wait for that shipment to finish and then get that order essentially invoiced out the door, right? So the process like to get going may take a little longer on a new ERP system when you go live, but do not revert back if you don't know where to go in the new system day one. Don't go back to the old system. Stay on the new system and put information in there.
I mean, if you're asking people to duplicate their work, then one, they're tired of that. They don't want to be spending all of that time. You're going to lower the morale of the people who are already dealing with a go live. But on top of that, there's really no guarantee that it does all get duplicated. It's highly likely that it doesn't all get duplicated. They may enter it first in the old system. And then the phone rings, someone asks if they want a coffee, whatever. They're not necessarily going to get round to doing the duplication that they are supposed to. And how are you going to track that? You probably had some automations, label printing, automatic invoicing, whatever, stuff that would have been triggered in the old system. We can assume we've switched all that off in the old system. Now they need to do it in the new system. But I think it just leads to confusion. And you're going to end up with, not only two sources of truth or not truth anymore, but probably just a whole bunch of mistakes that you will very, very quickly lose track of.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Single source of truth is great because you think about the fact that, like, you hit it right. You haven't got either now. You haven't got like one that's true and one that isn't. You simply have not got any system now that is true. And I can imagine, I hadn't really thought about automations, but as you said that, I also thought about all of the automatic functions of a system, numbering sequences, for example. Think of the impacts not just on your teams, but externally, your customers going, well, hang on, I thought this was the invoice reference, or I thought my credit note was this. Absolute chaos, right?
Chaos. That's the word.
Yeah. And
thank you for joining us today.
Episode is done. Yeah, everyone got what they wanted out of this. But yeah, it's, when you implement a new ERP system, the thought from the beginning of the project should be, guys, this thing is going to get abandoned. The old system is going to get abandoned, and we're cutting it off right when we go live, right? When there's that discussion that happens and you even decide to go live, I think there's a big failure in the objective of the project right from the beginning.
Yep. I think this kind of blends into the second point that we got around this does double the workload of teams, and they're going to be stressed enough anyway. They probably already put in a bunch of effort into the training sessions, attending configuration sessions, being part of testing, etc., etc. Everyone's pushing for this go live, and then it's suddenly, you're trying to go live and now everyone's workload's doubled at the worst time of such a project. Everyone's trying to, even undo muscle memory from the old system, but retain muscle memory because you're telling them to continue in the old system. And they've got new screens and trying to build up muscle memory in the new screens and trying to keep, day-to-day business running, answering the phones. To ask teams to suddenly do everything twice is just, it's saturation point, isn't it? It's just, why risk your new system because everyone's too busy. You know what it's like? Everyone always says they're too busy anyway. End users say they're too busy to be part of an ERP migration project at the best of times. And now they're having to run two systems. It's just, you're never going to gain, traction in the new system if they're too busy maintaining or trying to keep the old system alive like that.
Well, I could also see that our people could see comfort in the idea of, you know what, the old system's still there. We're still going to use it. We're going to duplicate our work. They might think, oh, great, because if I go wrong in the new system, then that's good. The old one's still there. I know how to use that. I'm comfortable with it. And then I think it's our job as project managers, as IT leaders, whatever your role is in the project, to help them understand why that's not a great idea, because I think the reality is maybe they like the idea in theory before you go live, but as soon as you go live, they're going to hate it. And we don't want them to have to experience that for themselves. Let's tell them, let's control it, and let's make sure go live goes well.
Okay, let's expand on that one, for example, then. We got a point here that says people default to what they know. The old system's still there, they're going to use it. So imagine then we've decided, okay, fine, we're not going to run two systems, we're going to switch the old one off. People will still try to default to the old way of doing things, old system or not. So what would your tactics be around stopping that? Because people are going to run away with their little Excel spreadsheet that was kind of generated from the old system, and they're trying to use it as some kind of reference guide. Like, what would your tactics be around that? Is it just a simple hit them over the head with a stick and go, no, force them to use this?
Yes.
Or okay, great. Next point.
No, I mean, first of all, as much as we can, I want to take away those tools that we've discontinued so that they're not still there to be tempted by it. But I think we all know people save stuff to their desktops. There are folder locations that we never knew about that we suddenly find out everyone is using. So on that topic and sort of adopting the new processes, I think probably something I've learned a little bit more recently is keeping a training program after go live as well. Traditionally, in that go live period, maybe the first couple of months, we're planning for, say, lots of hypercare, maybe some sessions where, for 30 minutes, an hour every week, we have the session and you can come and join it and ask questions and you feel like you're being very supportive and they can come and bring stuff up. But actually, they're not bringing it up if they're still using their nice, comfortable Excel that they know how to work. So I think just continuing training sessions, repeating what you already trained before you went live, I think would be really, really effective. And that's for me a lesson learned. And I'd like to put that into the practice the next time I do an ERP migration or similar project.
Nirav?
I think that's all really awesome points. One thing I noticed, and Acumatica did this in Summit, I went to a session and in the ERP, Acumatica has generic inquiries. The user, this power user or manager, whoever what it was, at Go Live, they created this GI that basically called out when data was bad, whether quantities were incorrect on receipts or pricing was wrong or so-and-so was wrong, right? Because there was big resistance to change at Go Live. So users were using other tools outside the system but not updating the ERP correctly. So she created this UI, this GI essentially, and essentially made it a company-wide dashboard. So everybody saw how often people put in bad information into the ERP or lack of information. So really quickly, using a tool like that, people understood like, wow, okay, if I don't put in the right information and I only put it into this place and that place doesn't really matter anymore, I need to put it into the ERP system, I'm going to get called out. I'm not going to look good in front of my peers at the end of the day, right? So it was cool to see how they leveraged the ERP to promote, a high adoption in the system. So people were super zoned in to put in information in the new ERP and not revert back to the Excel spreadsheet that they're putting in information before. So, as much as I think, we have to limit the tools, I think that's absolutely correct, right? You give them read-only access essentially, right? Or take away the tool altogether. But I think if they're put up against that their data is being reviewed, right? Not just you set it and forget it, right? Because ERP systems are known to be that. They're basically a big database of just information, whether correct or wrong, we don't know until you can start analyzing that data, right? So, immediately out of the gate, starting to look at that and holding people accountable, I think will increase the ROI and making sure people stick into the new system and they don't fall back to the old system. That's really easy to do. They always say Excel Excel is probably everyone's best ERP system and easiest to use. Outlook and email, right, is the best ERP system because you just send emails back and forth, right? Oh, okay, I sent to this person. I don't got to worry about it. But what did that person do? Did they do their job? Did they get the alert that they needed to? Are they going to be late and sending the invoice to the customer? Whatever type of automations you're trying to achieve, you can't achieve it through Excel and Outlook, right? You have to be able to do it in the ERP system, and you have to have people in there every single day in the new system, right? And they don't go back.
I like the idea of it. It gives them something tangible, as a result of using the new system properly. And if I'm understanding what you said correctly, we're not calling them out in the sense that, Nirav's at the top of the list doing everything wrong and look how great Pete's doing. And, I'm pointing at you in a meeting. It's just something that you can all see. So essentially the people in the team are holding each other to account because they all want to be working well in the right system and they don't want to be the person who's messing everything up. So I think it's quite a friendly way to hold people to account.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen this yet, but I'm understanding from your implementations, you guys have come up with some really creative ways to get user cooperation. What type of incentive program would nothing we need to answer now, but it'd be cool to see what other customers have done. Put together some sort of incentive program or scorecard or, something like that, appreciation for users that are only solely dedicated to the ERP system after go live, right? And they help other users to make sure that they're in the system. That would be interesting.
Yeah, things like you won't get fired. What else is there?
Moving on here to the next point.
you get to keep your job. You get to keep your job. Tim doesn't. No, but I think you're right. I think if you can reward good practice and best practice, eventually you can take that bit away. If you can gamify it, great. Make it a bit of fun.
Cool.
Make it a team effort. Reward the results of people doing this. Then over time, when you wean them off that, it kind of just sticks because everyone wants to see, once they've got a shiny new system, everything's complete, everything's accurate. Cool. Now we can start turning on some automations in places because we trust all of our master data.
That's right.
It's going to definitely stick because they won't want to let go of that when they've had a taste of how good an ERP system and how modern ERP system can support them when it is well maintained, up to date like that. But yeah, I think you're right. You'd have to reward it first of all. Because if they don't know, if they're still used to the 15-year-old ERP and the 10 Excel reports and the tribal knowledge, they know no different. They don't know, as much as you can say how much greener the grass is going to be, they've never actually experienced it. So you're going to have to incentivize them to get them actually, seeing what it can be like, I think.
I think it's all very hypothetical for the user when us in IT are talking about all of the bits, the automations that we're excited to bring in, and this is going to benefit you if you do this properly. They still don't really have a concept of it because we've not been able to show it to them properly. So that's a challenge in it as well.
Yeah.
All right. Another one I want to try and see what your guys' thoughts are on this. If culture follows leadership, right? So if the message from the top is, just so you know, we're going to keep the old system running just in case, what do you think that message lands like to everyone else in the business when they're like, just in case this goes wrong? Like, what's your thoughts about that? Because that's how it's going to be seen. That's the only reason why we're keeping the old system alive, right? Just in case on the new system. So how do you think that actually resonates with the business and all of the end users?
This is my number one reason for not doing it. It's if I say, we're going to run both just in case, because that's the only reason I can see for doing it, right? We're saying, we're worried it won't quite work out. We want to be able to fall back on the old system. I've run a bad project if that's the situation that we're in. If I wasn't sure, I wouldn't go live. It would only be giving a terrible impression to our people within the project. And I think it's a challenge anyway. I think that they're already skeptical. They're already worried about it. And things do go wrong when you go live. Like I think normally some stuff goes wrong and we fix it and that's all part of the process. So if we're there, flinching, scared that it's all going to go wrong, of course they're going to be worried and then probably less motivated to do a good job because they may think it wasn't worth it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's more to say even after that, Emily. I think you hit the nail around the head. It's, if you're already showing fear and you're already showing, deep concern of the capabilities of the new ERP system, and you're spreading the message that there may need to do this dual parallel process. I think there's been some really big missteps that have happened along the way for that decision to come from management down to say that we're gonna go ahead and run parallel. So I think if you're in that situation right now, I would say go back a little bit, time out your project right now, and basically reevaluate, right? Why you're having this discussion from management to run parallel. Because I don't think at any point that conversation could come up, because it's showing weakness from the new ERP perspective, the decisions that management has made on the new ERP. We'll move into this here very shortly. Trust is a big component of it. Your partner, that they're working really hard for a singular goal for you to go live on the new ERP, is now put in a bad position with your users to get them to work in the system, to train properly, to hold them accountable. So it's just a really bad, I think, position to be in if you're getting that type of right information from management that decided on this new ERP, right? Let's face it, they're the upper management, C-level suite is making the final decision, what ERP system you're going to go with. And if they're not, feeling confident, I think it's a bad place for any user.
You're getting me thinking about the communication aspect from us as people who are doing the implementing. I can certainly tell the management, the stakeholders, we're confident in this, it's going to work. But there's an element of why, proving, well, here's how we've prepared. Why am I confident that it's going to work? And that all comes into sort of, well, the entire project, to be honest. I was going to say the latter stages of the project, but actually just having the right project team in place. Why do I know that there are no show-stopping issues in this project that will mean we need to roll back? It's because I included all of the people in the business that I needed to, key people from each department. And we made sure, over and over again that every show-stopping potential issue had already been covered. Later in the project, when we get to our user acceptance testing, doing a control room pilot, writing down scenarios that cover the majority of the day-to-day, plus some of the key other things that happen month end, whatever. Here it is. It's all documented. These are all the people. These are all the scenarios we tested. This is how we did it. This is how long we spent on it. Here are the problems we found. This is where we fix them. This is why I'm confident that to say, yes, in the go, no go decision, I'm saying go, because we've tested it all and we know it will work. If I couldn't say that, then I wouldn't be recommending we go live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so huge.
I think that shows the importance of that testing phase. When you're creating these kind of scenarios, real world scenarios, it's very important that you create scenarios that reflect what happens on an average day in your business. Don't just think, I'll do a fictional kind of scenario. We received this purchase order from the customer. We need to, raise it, make it, ship it. Like, that doesn't happen. You get an order from a customer. It's not got the right price on it. They're asking for it tomorrow and it's a custom job. The factory's slammed anyway. There's all these things that happen every single day, that it's really important that when you're creating these scenarios, you create warts and all, what your business looks like. Because one, you might actually find out there's gaps in training. Two, you might find gaps in actually just the configuration, or something doesn't pop up on a downstream screen that you were expecting it to. And really, these are the kind of things that do happen. It absolutely will. One of you said it earlier. Things will go wrong. It won't be perfect. In fact, if you think everything's gone right and nothing seems to have gone wrong, you've probably got a problem, because you haven't spotted what has gone wrong, because there's going to be something in the background. And I think this really links into this whole kind of idea of trust, because it is that confirmation bias. It's people don't trust the new system as much as they seem to be in favor for it. And you told them time and time again, it's going to be so much better. They won't trust it. And if you're saying to them, we're going to have the old system there as a safety net just in case, you can bet that as soon as something does go wrong, they're going to go, see, told you that'd happen. Oh, I'm going to go back to the old system. I know it works in that, because they're going to be looking for it more than ever. That's just confirmation bias all over. And saying that you're going to have the old system there, just in case something goes wrong, it completely feeds into that for the end users.
It becomes a crutch, right? And it's it's not the right crutch at the end of the day. The crutch should be work instructions. It should be partner helping you. It should be, your managers. They should be the crutch to help you get through the new system, not your old system.
I could imagine there are companies where the stakeholders, your leadership stakeholders, may try to force it through and say, no, when you go live, we are going to run both because I don't trust it. And that's where I think being able to communicate all of these things, all of this preparation, this testing, working with the partner, all of that, that's how you try to get out of that difficult situation where the person who pays your salary is saying, no, do this thing I'm
Yep.
telling you to do. And it's a bad idea for the other things we've discussed. So hopefully communicating these things can help.
Yeah, it doesn't send the right message upwards either, does it? Right? It's like, yeah, great. Thanks for the $500,000 investment into this. I don't trust. I'm going to keep our old system going just in case.
Yeah.
Thanks for your money.
Yeah. Let's just try it, and if it doesn't work out, we'll just get rid of it.
Yeah. I'm sure we can get our money back. All right, this kind of links to something that we were talking about before we hit the record button. I'm going to throw this one straight to Emily because you raised this interesting point about people thinking that we're going to somehow stagger the launch. Like, oh, we'll just go live on finance first and the other teams like at a later date. Like, what's your experience of this? Because it sounds like you've heard this from businesses.
I do usually get asked this same question, and it's in the same conversation about, for how long are we going to run both systems in parallel? Then I'll also get the question, are we going to go live all as one big bang, or are we going to do maybe, just finance first? And this is all very much in the context of a full ERP system, warehouse, production, finance, sales, all of those things, all in one ERP, and we're going to migrate to a new one. And the question is, are we going to just do one first? And I have to say, I don't really know where that question comes from. And I'm wondering if Nirav might have a few insights from his customers. But for me, the answer is, well, no, of course not, because everything is so connected. And I would say specifically, the question is usually, are we going to just go live with finance first? And in the context of an ERP where everything is already all connected, you'd break everything if you took finance out of the old ERP and just ran a new one. What would feed into it? How would it work? I don't know. And I don't honestly really know where the question comes from.
Yeah, it's, in our experience, being a partner, we've seen this occasionally. I wouldn't say all the time. This is more of an exception where customers realize through the implementation that there's maybe a huge resistance to take on a new inventory module that's connected to planning, right? Or projects module, because there's too much risk in all the open projects that are out there and to be able to convert them over because they're in such bad data organization, right? It's just not possible to bring that information because it's literally on like handwritten notes. So in those cases, again, they're rare, right? We do a finance only implementation, which streamlines their finance processes, ARAP, checks, bank recs, that type of stuff. You're right, Emily, that, how do you connect? How do you connect inventory? How do you connect revenue recognition on projects? How do you connect invoicing if you're not doing material invoices? Well, we've created then at that point kind of a bridge to those areas. So what it is that there's reports that are sent over to the finance team, and the finance team then has to do some manual manipulation of those files or those reports that come in periodically, whether it's every week or it's every month, right? Where they go ahead and create their transactions in the system. And it's not the subledger level transactions like specific item numbers and to that level, but it's more GL account based. So you're just creating journal entries as you would like if you're using QuickBooks. But that's like the crawl, walk, run model, right? Some customers they cannot take on this big kind of heart transplant for the organization immediately. So we do it carefully though. You do it in the sense that everybody knows that even though finance is using the new ERP system, in parallel, you are still going to go ahead and run, the project and train users to use inventory or to use projects or to use manufacturing, because you're going to bring those into the ERP and fold that in very quickly. So that's just a very temporary kind of what I say solution. So at least you're off of QuickBooks, and maybe you're at least off of other finance systems that you were using, just doing, P&Ls and balance sheets on Excel. You no longer have to do that anymore. You could do it in an ERP system. But the long-term goal is within 6 months or within 9 months, depending on how big your company is, that you're you're bringing in inventory, you're bringing in order management, you're bringing in projects, you're bringing in CRM, all that's coming into the ERP system. So it's going to be nicely connected. That's really the only reason from our experience, we've seen that. And, that they do it. But then there's other companies, right, that are really just pure finance, right? They don't use inventory. They don't do anything. Let's say a loan management company or a title broker company, or let's say legal services, right? There's really no inventory involved. There's none of that stuff involved. So you're only doing a finance only implementation at that point, but they're using an ERP system, right? Maybe not an ERP system that's heavy in inventory or planning or something like that. So those end up becoming finance only implementations. Yeah, you're implementing module at a time for a specific reason. I would never suggest that to a company that it already has plans and ambitions to be using all the modules right out of the gate. And then they tell the user, well, just kidding. We're just going to go finance first. And you guys keep doing all your mystery stuff in Excel spreadsheets after you go live, right? That doesn't happen.
I think you calling it a heart transplant probably hits it on the head. I think the question comes from fear. They're thinking, my God, every department, our entire business, all changes on one day. How is that possible?
Yeah.
But that is probably where the question comes from. And I can see the logic to it from that perspective. And then it comes back down to what I was just saying, which is the communication on how are we preparing? How do we make it so that go live goes well? That big bang, big change, heart transplant of the company. How do we make it less scary on go live day? So yes, I think it's a fear-based question.
Yeah.
All of this, it's fear-based.
For sure.
It is
Absolutely.
fearless. I think some of this comes across in just how good your data migration is. Some of that fear is, oh, what about the old historical data? How can I look up, the last time this customer bought this thing? How do I know what invoices are still open? I think if you can answer, or at least be able to clearly explain to the people your tactics of how you're going to handle that data migration, say, look, how are you going to handle the historical data? How are you going to make that accessible to them? And how they're going to feel as if they're supported. And there's nothing to fear. That goes a long way as well. So if you can kind of quench some of that.
I knew this was going to come, Peter. Data with you all day long from the Data King. Seriously, man? Come on.
Where's your crown?
Where is my crown? God damn it.
It's fallen off.
My head's grown too big for it.
I could get you one from Burger King, actually. And Burger King, if you're listening, there's a plug right there.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about one last one. There's two things I want to talk about, but we have got one more point, and we've written down that it delays ROI on your new ERP investment, or at least makes it harder to track. So you sold this thing, you're going to have a load of value from our new ERP, massive amount of ROI, and here you are still chucking money at maintaining your old system. Muddies the waters. Nirav?
Yeah, it does. What the whole point of going live into an ERP system, right? Gain efficiency, better reporting, streamline your processes, right? Stop having, so-and-so person having to do, 5, 4, 10 different steps, right? To process one transaction, right? Having to send out 10 emails, that type of thing, right? The ERP system is really meant to, where you could eliminate steps, get more time in the user's hands so they could go ahead and add more value to the business by increasing margin, right? Onboarding better suppliers, looking for more customers, right? All that type of stuff, right? That's the whole reason you do this project, right? That's the ROI of this project. And if you're worried that the users are gonna have a difficult time transacting in the new system, when that was the whole idea, right? I think you have it backwards. The ROI piece of this is really important. Always have the end in mind. I always tell our customers, like, once we implement you, let's just say hypothetically we go live next week, and we could just be kicking me off the project, by the way. Let's say we go live next week and you look back 5 years from now after you went live, what are the 5 things that you could say, if we did this, it's going to equal success for our project? Right? We keep that in the forefront all the time, and we measure the success of the ERP project at that criteria at the end of the day, because that criteria is coming from the top, right? That's coming from the top, and they've already decided the amount of hours that we were going to save from solving whatever type of problems that customer wants is going to equal greater than the cost of the investment of the ERP system, right? So when we do this, that's what we actually are aiming to do at the end of the day. It's just not, we hope we could ship 10 more orders, or we could just go ahead and do, we could put in a sales price list really fast. Like, no, like there's bigger ROI to a project this size, right? Don't look at it at that scale. Like, look at it like, how could you increase your bottom line by $1 million? How could you increase your bottom line by $5 million, right? You're 5 million today. In 5 years, you want to be at 25 million. Well, how do we get you there with the ERP system? That's the ROI. So that's the way I look at it. And if you keep telling your users, if you're portraying the message that go back to your old system and it's fine, right? And we'll continue doing what we're doing today. Well, you're not doing this for today. You're doing this for tomorrow.
I'm going to flip this over to Emily, because this kind of links into some of your experience then on kind of justifying the why to the business, why we need to do this. And obviously one of the biggest things that upper management want to know is like, when do I get my payback for my investment? And of course, when we're talking about keeping your old system going, there's associated costs to that, isn't there? So maybe you can answer to some of these points around driving value from your new system, as well as removing the costs of your existing system.
Yeah, I have to say the points from Nirav are very good, because when I was thinking initially about this ROI topic, I was thinking pretty much straightforward. Well, the old ERP costs money, tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in licensing. So of course your ROI is delayed if that is still running. Because you could also then introduce the question of, well, how long is it running for? At what point are we finally happy to get rid of it and stop paying that money? So that's sort of a huge, obvious initial impact. But yeah, absolutely. All of those optimizations that we're trying to show that we'll be able to do in this new system. And I think I say optimization a little bit more heavily than I say automation, because I think often in an initial phase 1 ERP go live, while you know all of these things that you'd love to automate and a little bit more is automated, what we're really looking to do is optimize our processes. So the more recent ones that I have been involved in have tended to be around making it so that people have more time to spend on growing the business and focusing on those tasks that are going to bring in more money, not spending all of their time on admin. And the way that we've been able to assess that kind of thing is review those processes in that old system. What are you doing now? How many times, a day, a week, a month are you doing this? How long do you spend on it? And then logging that. So, we can say we're in this old system, we're doing, this team is spending 600 hours just typing things in, whereas we could redeploy that 600 hours towards going after new business. We know we've got X number of dollars. The market is X big and we only have 20% of it. We can go after this with these resources if we stop spending 600 hours on typing things in or printing stuff and walking it across the office and handing it to someone else and then they type it in, all of those kinds of things. And I think that's quite a basic level of it. We're just looking at what kind of crazy manual processes are we doing right now? Let's really get in and understand them and quantify it. You have to quantify what's going on. And I think, in fact, I know when you go to any department, any manager, whatever, and you say, they can see the benefit. They know it's going to be better. They know their team will be able to spend more time on better things. But when we try to say, well, can we put some numbers to that? They kind of say, oh, well, it's very complicated. We can't really do that. It's, it's complex. It's hidden complexity. But you can always quantify it. You can always do some kind of assessment. And even at a more direct level, you can go to an individual and they can tell you about a process and you can say, okay, so how long does that usually take you? And they'll say, oh, well, it depends. I can't really say. And I will just keep pushing with numbers until they kind of agree to something. What does it take? Half an hour? Does it take 2 hours? Does it take a day? And they'll kind of say, oh, well, it doesn't take a day, unless this thing happens. And I'll say, well, how often does that thing happen? Maybe that happens. Turns out that's just once or twice a month. This complicated situation comes up that could lead it to take 2 days. But normally it takes 30 minutes. So, okay, it takes you 30 minutes. You do it X number of times a day. That's how many hours. You definitely have to push to quantify. And people will tell you it can't be done. It can. But you push, and that's how I would assess that return on investment. And it is a challenge. They will always push back on you for that because it's hard to quantify unless you're there kind of coaching through it, trying to get little answers at a time.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Very good. I think that's a good place to stop. We could probably think of another 20 reasons why you shouldn't keep your old system running alongside your new one. But I think that probably covers the majority of what people are wondering when they hear us say, no, never do this. So thank you both. I'm going to enjoy looking at what our editor finds for our TikTok channel. Whoever that is, whoever has to go through these recordings again. But thank you very much. I enjoyed this. Emily, thank you for joining us. It's always nice to have that extra kind of insight and opinion, because otherwise it's just me and Nirav nodding along, because I know we agree.
She is a subject matter expert in ERP and all things. So really happy to have her and share her experiences in this. I think the more, various different angles that we could talk about, I think ultimately better for our viewers out there and listeners. So really cool. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you for having me. You gave me some interesting things to think about as well.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. If you're new here, we shoot this and release a new episode every 2 weeks. ABCs of ERP and Beyond is all about modern businesses and how modern ERP can help support you. So if you are new here, you haven't checked us out, we have a huge backlog of videos and audio. We're on all of the major podcast platforms and on YouTube. So make sure you, as Nirav was gesturing there, smash that like button, as we like to say, and find us, reach out. We're on LinkedIn, the ABCs of ERP and Beyond. And Nirav, where can people find you specifically?
Yeah, they can find me usually on the first tee if I get a chance to go play golf. But to talk about ERP things, we could talk on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Nirav.h.shah. DM me over there. Happy to take questions, or even through YouTube. Send us a message. We're always on the lookout to learn new things about ERP. And if you have something that you would like to add to our podcast, let us know, and we'd love to have you on.
All right, cool. Thanks once again. Thank you, Emily, for joining us. Hopefully this won't be the last time that we see you, because I thought this episode was particularly insightful with that kind of three-way conversation we're having during that.
Yeah.
For now,
Great.
take care, and I will see you on the next episode.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.